Why do we crave to be seen, even by people we don't trust? Why do some stares feel like applause while others slice deeper than silence? You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that their opinions are leaves in the wind, but part of you still listens. Part of you still dresses for them, laughs louder around them, hides softer parts when they enter the room. Keep watching, because by the end of this, you'll understand why that pull toward status and validation isn't weakness. It's something older, something wired into the quiet ache of needing to belong. We chase popularity like oxygen, not because we want to rise above others, but because we want to prove we exist. We want proof that who we are ripples across someone else's world. It's not about attention, it's about confirmation. Is my presence felt? Do I matter here? Will anyone notice if I vanish? There's an animal in us that listens for those answers with every look someone gives, or withholds. And when they see us, even just briefly, it feels like a little piece of safety. That's the truth underneath the surface. It's not that we want to be admired, we want to be chosen. Social status, clout, reputation, they're just symbols. But belonging? That's the buried treasure. Peer validation is addictive because it feels like home. Every invitation, every "you're one of us" lights up that deep place inside you that learned early on. Being alone is dangerous. Keep listening, because by the time we're through, you'll see why your craving for acceptance wasn't vanity. It was survival, dressed up in high school uniforms and group chats. We don't perform popularity, we survive through it. From the way we laugh at jokes we don't think are funny to the way we mirror the tone of the dominant voices in the room. We don't become them to betray ourselves. We do it to stay close to the fire. We learn that mockery has a way of erasing people. So we stay inside the perimeter. We signal alliance, we signal safety. Because in the unspoken world of peer influence, rejection doesn't just sting, it exiles. And exile can look ordinary. Just a skipped name on the invite list. Just a pause in conversation when you walk in. Just the slow fade of messages turning cold. But deep down it burns. It unthreads your sense of self. It whispers that you misread the room, that something in you broke the spell. So next time you watch more closely. You echo the right phrases. You instinctively censor the parts of you that have sharp or unfamiliar edges, because adaptation feels better than abandonment, and you can learn to stop bleeding for it. There's a strange kind of grief in popularity because it always asks for a part of you in trade. At some point, you notice the mask starts to mold to your skin. That curated version of yourself that you built for them, it starts to overwrite the quiet parts you kept hidden. You forget what your own silence used to sound like. And still, it feels safer than being unknown. So you keep signaling through style, through humor, through being seen with the right people at the right time. And when you're seen, you feel momentarily full. But it fades. That flash of visibility rarely stays. Peer approval is fleeting. It shifts with trend currents, with moods, with rumors, and shifting loyalties. You can be golden in the morning and invisible by nightfall. And so begins another round. Perform, posture, prove. Try again, signal again. And somewhere inside, the version of you that doesn't want to play this game starts to whisper, is this what connection is supposed to feel like? Sometimes, under the noise, there's a deeper question. Can they love who I really am? If I've never shown them? That's where it gets lonely, right at the center of attention. Because status builds walls as fast as it builds bridges. The more you pursue it, the more you tailor yourself to expectation. And expectation is a cage dressed like applause. You laugh when you don't want to. You say yes when every part of you aches to say no. You start flooding the world with borrowed personality, hoping no one notices the silence underneath. And yet, walking away feels like suffocating. Because even in its hollowness, peer validation is a kind of heartbeat. It's the reason you check your phone after posting, even though you pretend not to care. It's why you remember offhand comments for days. Why you keep score of who looked when you entered the room. It's not ego. It's that quiet tally in your chest saying, do I still belong? Even among friends, there's this undercurrent. You know which topics are safe. You know which feelings are too heavy to bring up. You know who's allowed to be vulnerable and who must stay composed. Roles form. Archetypes solidify. One's the funny one. One's the listener. One's always struggling. One's always fine. And heaven help the one who wanders too far from their role. The others flinch. You feel it subtly, the way silence descends when you break type. So you apologize with a smile, or downplay the feeling, or retreat. And when that silence lingers, something inside starts to speak. You realize popularity isn't just about being liked. It's about being legible. Others need you to fit a silhouette, something recognizable, something comforting. We become characters in their story to earn a line in their script. But what happens when you grow beyond it, or shrink beneath it? What happens when the real you no longer fits? That's the point where a choice appears, quiet and buried under distraction. Do I keep molding myself for them, or do I start listening to the parts of me they've never asked to see? It's terrifying, isn't it? The thought of being unknown again? But also, there's peace there. Like standing in the rain after holding your breath for months. Like not needing to signal anymore. Like realizing that the people who see you without staging the scene, those are the ones you might actually breathe around. Because real belonging isn't earned through performance. It's felt in the moments when you stop pretending, when your voice falters and no one walks away, when you cry about something that's not that deep, and they lean in anyway. When your silence doesn't scare them off. That's the difference between being popular and being held. One claps for your mask, the other stays for your truth. But to get there, we often have to burn through the addiction to surface approval. And it is an addiction, because every compliment, every nod of acceptance, hits the same part of the brain that lights up under safety. We get high on the idea that we matter to the group. Even when the group doesn't know our name, just our avatar. Maybe especially then, because mystery makes rejection impossible. They can't hurt what they can't really see. Still, there's that part of us that longs to be seen completely, and loved anyway. Peer influence tugs on that wire every day. It tells us who we're allowed to be, where we're safe to exist, how softly or loudly we should take up space. And we listen, even when it chokes us. Even when it makes us deny parts of our identity, laugh when we want to scream, agree when we feel pushed back against the wall of our own morality. All because the terror of standing on the edge, alone, is worse than shapeshifting under pressure. And isn't that something? How fear can make performers of us all. But the danger is this. When all our energy is spent being seen in the right way, we forget how to be felt. How to connect without scripting it. How to cry without pacing our tears. How to talk without rehearsing the story for maximum relatability and minimal discomfort. That's what real peer influence takes from us, if we're not watching. It replaces being known with being liked. And the difference matters more than we think. Some of the loneliest people are the most surrounded. Because crowds don't equal closeness. Laughter doesn't equal intimacy. We can be drowning in approval and still starving for understanding. That's why the ache doesn't leave after the party. That's why the silence after the scroll feels so suffocating. That's why everyone loves you rings hollow when no one really knows the chapters you never read aloud. The midpoint between popularity and authenticity is a corridor of confusion. You start knowing what you don't want to be, but not yet who you are. You lose the comfort of external validation before you've grown the roots of self-belonging. And in that space, you'll be tempted to go back, to put the mask back on, to blend, to belong, even if it costs your truth. But hold still. That discomfort is sacred. It means you're close. We all need each other. That part doesn't change. But what does change is the cost we're willing to pay for connection. Some bonds exhaust us. Some ignite something honest. And it takes time to know the difference. Popularity gives the illusion of inclusion, but it's loyalty to unspoken rules, not your soul. The moment you stop serving the group's comfort, popularity looks away. But real belonging looks again, keeps looking, doesn't flinch when you grow. So why do we still signal? Still crave the signal returned? Because validation feels like certainty. It feels like answers. And in a world where everyone is fighting invisible battles with their reflection, we think if we're just seen the right way, we'll finally feel real. But you're already real, even when they scroll past. Even when they watch your story but not your struggle. Even when you drop out of their memory the second you leave the room. You're not a projection or a reaction or a perfectly timed story. You're the quiet space left after it all fades. That space is where truth lives. And if someone ever enters that space and stays, you'll know. Because it won't feel like status. It'll feel like exhale,